What's good, Desi Hip Hop fam? You are tuned in to the Unfiltered podcast, live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, with audio episodes on Spotify, Apple Music, Google Podcasts, and everywhere else. I am your host, DJ Raf, live and direct from the US. Today we have another special episode planned for you guys. And, today we're going to hang out with the team at the StayIN Alive Fund. This is a fund that was created during this COVID times to help artists around India to, really pay some of their bills and really do what they love to do. So today we're going to find out more information about them. The StayIN Alive Artists Emergency Fund has been a collaboration with GiveIndia, which is India's leading nonprofit org. And this fund is intended to help artists in the short run via a personal emergency fund aimed at addressing specific financial challenges. So this will be an exciting episode, man. I'm really excited to talk to them about everything that they do and how they do it. But before that, I also wanted to urge you guys, I know that our audience has a lot of independent artists. So go ahead and check out Sunomi.io. All of the Unfiltered podcast is brought to you by Sunomi.io. This is a brand, a company directed at independent artists in South Asia. This is the only South Asian company who helps independent artists distribute music all over the world to like 150 stores and all of that good stuff. All right. So go check out Sunomi.io if you are an independent artist. If you're releasing music, which you should, check out Sunomi.io. There are a lot of great plans for you. Also, if you're an independent artist who does live shows like this one or live shows on, LinkedIn or anywhere else or Twitch, you can monetize your live shows using APPLAUS. So go check out APPLAUS as well. Just Instagram it, Google it. I don't know. Just figure it out. You got it. All right. You guys know how to do this. But today, let's start our show by introducing the team from StayIN Alive Fund. Please welcome Dipti and Raghav. Hi. Hi, Dipti.
Hello.
How are you?
Very well. Thanks for having us.
Yes, I'm really happy to have you. Looks like Raghav is still loading, but it's all good. That's fine. While Raghav returns, let's have a chat with you, Dipti. So, how's your day going so far?
It's going pretty well. Thanks for asking.
Nice. Oh, Raghav is back. Hey, Raghav.
Hi, how are you? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes, this is perfect. This is good. So let's start with Dipti, man. How's the few months been? The past few months, like in quarantine and since the pandemic started, how has it been for you personally?
For me personally, it's been challenging, but I've been lucky that I've got a great support system. The work is moving, but more importantly, because we've been able to collaborate with like-minded people, we have been able to extend small amount of support to the wider creative community. And I think that's one of the biggest learnings that I've had during this entire pandemic. It's really the need for community to stick together. That's been probably one of my biggest learnings over the past few months.
Right. That's awesome. Now, Raghav, man, how has the past few months been for you?
I think so. I work at a label and I also double up as an artist. I was a full-time artist and now I work at a label. I head marketing and partnerships at Big Bang Music, and it's been fairly difficult from both sides of the spectrum because, firstly, as an artist, live gigs have completely stopped, which is absolutely crazy because I feel like I'll struggle going back to playing those live gigs again. Also, as an artist community, I think we've musicians have suffered greatly. I used to live with a flatmate in Bombay. I think most musicians that I knew who were full-time musicians in Bombay have left home and gone on to going back to living with their families and stuff like that. I think in terms of the label side of things, of course, music has taken a hit in terms of live revenues coming in. But at the same time, I think a lot more people are streaming more music. I think that way it's a good time to build a real audience. And because for 3-4 months in India, at least, there were a lot of people, consuming more content. People had the time to sort of explore more artists. Bollywood as like a big chunk of like music streaming had completely stopped. So that was interesting. It was a new opportunity for us to like go digital and sort of build our audiences and build our artists in a sustained manner. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense, man. Can I ask you a real quick question? This is a complete tangent from the subject. Are you using your headphones on your phone?
Yeah, I
Is
am.
this your phone? Can we try without your headphones? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
sure. One sec.
There is a little bit of interruption. But okay,
Is this
say
better?
something. This is much better. Yeah, this
All
is
right.
perfect. Thank you.
Amazing.
This is awesome.
Technical
Okay.
glitches. Okay.
No, this is perfect. This is perfect. Okay, so I wanted to know a little bit about both of your backgrounds. Like what brought you here. Like what there's a whole story behind before coming into StayIN Alive Fund. Being part of the team. Dipti, can you tell me a little bit about your background and what inspired you to bring you to this fund?
Sure. So I stumbled into the arts, and part of the work that I do involves research and research in the creative sector. And we discovered that, especially in the nonprofit arts world, most arts managers in India, at least, have stumbled into the arts. So there's very little. There's a small group of people who've said this is the career that I want to choose, and then they study some form of arts management, and then go into pure arts management, as opposed to straddling the worlds of being an artist and working in the management of arts, much like Raghav over here. So I have no artistic bones in my body whatsoever. That's basically been the foundation of my journey, where I'm drawn to the arts, but I prefer my high comes from being backstage rather than on stage. And so I've worked in a few different jobs, and some of the work that I've done has intersected with theater. I've worked with music festivals. I've worked with a little bit of dance as well, mostly again in the nonprofit space.
Nice.
And I now currently work primarily with a company that works on sector development and capacity building for the arts. Again, it's a space that needs a lot more work in India, and that's what we're focused on right now.
Nice, that's awesome. That's really cool. A lot of people in in the music industry, like artists, like they require people like you, people like us, like on that behind the scenes side of things. You know what I mean? Even for me personally, like I used to be an artist when I was a teenager. I used to like do music and produce and stuff, but then I quickly realized that like my value and passion lies on this side, like on the business side, on the behind the scenes, on all of this. And I quickly realized that these artists need people like us. Without us, they're kind of in trouble. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, I applaud you for finding what you like to do and going for it. So that's always
sounds
important.
like we're on the same side of the fence.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. How about yourself, Raghav? Can you tell us a little bit about your background? And
So it's a really long journey. I think my love for music started when I was in school. Back in school, I was a metalhead, and I think when I was 14, 15, I used to attend like Great Indian Rock and like RSJ pub gigs and like sneak into bars and like message musicians to let me in. I think over time, college is when I started taking it very seriously. So I used to be the frontman for this prog rock band called The Uncertainty Principle in Delhi, and I played a lot of live gigs, and we started like traveling to other cities, but I realized there was never any money in it. So I started doing like a marketing gig. I worked at a bunch of places for about 4 years after college, and at some point I realized I really wanted to give music a shot. So I actually quit my job in Bangalore and moved to Bombay, and started my journey as a full-time musician. I did a bunch of stuff. I released an album which was crowdfunded with about 180 people, and I sort of used my marketing sort of skills that I had built over the years while working as a full-time marketing guy to apply to my music and sort of tried to build some kind of a following. And it was going well, except the fact that I wanted to stick to my guns and make English independent music, and I didn't want to sort of do these cover gigs and like wedding gigs and corporate gigs that really actually end up paying the bills, right? And I did a lot of like ad jingles and stuff like that, and I still do, but I didn't want to depend on it for the money. I wanted to enjoy the music more, and because I'd done all of this as an artist myself and reached some kind. I mean, I feel like I'd begun that journey and sort of reached somewhere. I thought I could leverage that on a more mainstream level, which is why I started working at Big Bang Music about a year and a half ago. Right, with the idea to sort of build up artists from scratch and use this sort of non-film opportunity that's come up in India in terms of music being consumed outside of Bollywood, to sort of try and build a huge network of artists who can do it outside of the ecosystem of Bollywood. And I've been here ever since. We work with Nazy very closely, so we released one EP, one album with Nazy, a couple of other artists that I've been working very closely with. StayIN Alive happened because I felt really strongly about it, because that's something that I felt alone when I was an artist. You know what I mean? Like there was no such community. Now I sort of run this community of indie singer-songwriters also. It's called the Cone Community ever since I went bald. It's a long story, but yeah. But I mean, StayIN Alive happened because I mean, I also felt really strongly about it, and a bunch of like-minded people got together, and we were just like, what do we do for people who are struggling and who've lost a livelihood? And we decided to put this fund together for anybody who needs an emergency sort of fund to sort of latch onto whenever they need as an artist, so that they're not sort of left high and dry when they really need it.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense, man. I appreciate that. That's a really good idea. So can you tell us a little bit about who are the people and companies or organizations who are involved with this fund right now?
So we now have 16 partners, and they're a mix of individuals, freelancers, companies as well. I can just run through the list really quickly. So there's the Artex company, which is who I work with, and this is of course alphabetical. It's not that I'm going first with mine. There's Alok Parandi, Artist Admi, Big Bang Music, who Raghav represents, Gully Gang, Commune Quan in India, OML Entertainment. We've got Paytm Insider, Priyanka Khimani, who is an entertainment and music rights lawyer, Sharkin Inc., Tabrasa, we've got Tarsem Mittal Talent Management, Taper Tail, Unmute, and Women of India.
Nice. There's a lot of big wigs, a lot of heavy, like, I don't know, a lot of big time people on that list. I like it.
Yeah. And what's interesting is there's a good diverse mix. For example, Big Bang Music is, of course, firmly in the music space. But Artex company is not, for example. As I mentioned, we do sector development and so on. Similarly, we've got Taper Tail, which also works with artists, but they work with a slightly different set of artists as well. So it's interesting to see partners coming together from these different spaces, all with a focus on live performing arts, because that's what the fund is catering to. But with slightly different perspectives coming together.
Nice. That's awesome. Really happy that you guys are doing this, man. This is really helpful for the artists and the community out there. Big shout out to all the viewers on YouTube. We got a couple of hundred people watching us. And if you guys have any questions, please drop them in the comment section. Today, we're chatting with two individuals from the StayIN Alive Fund, a fund that is actively helping artists throughout this COVID crisis. So one question to you guys is, so this fund is not just for this COVID times, right? This is as far as I remember reading, that this is something that's going to stay long term, right? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Raghav?
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea was to make some kind of a fund, because typically I mean, in a lot of other countries, the government also provides like some kind of a support. There are multiple organizations which sort of give you like a monthly grant and stuff like that, right? But an artist emergency fund doesn't really exist in India, and for any artist that needs some kind of emergency support, and that was the idea. COVID became like the sort of the opportunity to sort of build this because a lot of artists around us were suffering from it, from the lack of, from the loss of their livelihood going away. But I think the idea was to make it built across like a community so that it's not just about the fund also, by the way, like it's also, we want to drive like more awareness about education, the different tools that you can use to market your music. You guys are great examples of how you've done that over the years with the hip hop community. But can we take it to performing arts in general? But the fund primarily being like going on as in like being a recurring fund where you constantly keep raising money through different means and corporates and like different kinds of revenue streams, and then distributing amongst the artists and not just related to only COVID. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, that's really cool. I saw like on your tagline, it is. Can you remind me what the tagline was? It's like educate something. What was it again?
Educate, support, and inspire.
Okay, educate, support, and inspire. That is amazing. From that educate point of view, like what are some of the things that you guys are doing to educate your target audience?
So I think we had a day where we sort of did a fundraiser where we had different topics, right? I mean, it was also about like mental health awareness. It was about how you can navigate your career in the music industry, in the dance industry, in the performing arts industry. We've had a session with a lawyer who spoke about like, knowing your rights. So stuff like that, right? Because I mean, as a musician myself, I learned it the hard way, right? I got cheated by a couple of people, and that's when I decided to learn about all the rights that I have and what are the different things that can safeguard me. But when you're starting out as musicians, also StayIN Alive is for the kind of musicians who are just starting out, right? Because a lot of the established guys already have that support system. They probably have savings over the years who are probably not that affected, but the guys who are just starting out need that kind of support, right? So how do you give them those tools and give them that information, which is actually really easy to understand? But because of the kind of scenario that we're in, that information is really withheld, and I mean, people don't really understand what it is. So be it music rights, just IPs, understanding all of that, that's the kind of idea that we want to do. And we've done a couple of workshops with that. The event that we programmed on the day that it happened, we've done that. Even like writing your own songs, we got Ankur Tiwari to sort of get a bunch of aspiring singer-songwriters to get better at their craft, for example. We got a rapper to sort of do a rap workshop, right, on how to write good rap and like good verses. So that was the idea. And that's what we want to keep building over time. And of course, with organizations like you and multiple other partners, that's the idea, to build it and make it go forward, because there's a wealth of knowledge like we've been discussing. Yeah.
Right. Okay, that's awesome. That's perfect, man. Now let me ask you a question from the artist's point of view. What do they, what are the requirements to apply for this fund? And let's ask Dipti this one.
Sure. So we have an application form that's available currently in Hindi and English because we're trying to cater to artists who perhaps are not just in the main cities, in the metro cities. We have had applicants, for example, from outside, from tier 2, tier 3 cities as well. And just to add to what Raghav was talking about, since this is the Artist Emergency Fund, what we're trying to address are immediate emergency expenses that artists are currently struggling to fill. Rent, for example. There are artists who are facing medical expenses, obviously COVID, but also otherwise as well. Sometimes we've had to help with utility payments as well, electricity and so on and so forth. So the requirements are essentially just being able to show that you require emergency support. That's really what the fund is about. But apart from that, and apart from being an artist in the live performance space, we're trying to keep it as open as possible to invite, to make it available to as many artists as possible.
Okay, yeah. Nice. So is there a deadline or any something like that, or they can apply at any time?
So it is mostly ruling, but we work in cycles. So we've gone through 5 cycles so far. So at any point, artists can apply, and depending on when they apply, what date they apply on, they'll either fall into the next cycle, which is cycle 6, or if they go beyond the deadline, then it's the 7th cycle. The deadline is a little bit flexible for now. So I'm going to just encourage anyone who needs emergency funding to just send in the application, and then we'll look at those applications as soon as we possibly can.
Nice. Okay. And so yeah, that's awesome. Like the viewers who want to apply for this fund, please go find out more about the StayIN Alive Fund. It's on Instagram, it's on Google, it's everywhere. So just Google it, just find out. I know nowadays, like, it's easy for the youth to just Google things, find things. So like, please go use your opportunities and find out more information about StayIN Alive and everything that they're doing. So, since you guys have had 5 cycles of this already, is there like a trend that you're noticing? Is there a certain thing that you're noticing that is common among all the artists, like maybe a common problem that they're facing or common challenges that they're facing?
Normally, we find that just everyone has lost whatever regular jobs that they might have had. So often there are artists who have supported themselves by teaching. And initially, of course, all of the schools were closed. But even now, as things are reopening, as always, globally, the arts are the last thing to come back, right, in schools. So that's definitely a trend that we've been noticing. Apart from that, what we found is artists somehow they have to support larger families because in India, if you look at the folk sector, for example, the entire family somehow gets involved in the making of art, and it's a livelihood unlike the way we see it in bigger cities. So often we get applications from artists who are supporting larger families who and somehow are the only breadwinners in their family. So it's really a tough situation that's currently being faced by a large number of artists who may or may not have even access to information. So that's the other part of what we're trying to do with the 3 verticals that Raghav mentioned, is just to get information out there as well.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. So I think it's also what we've noticed is that a lot of the artists who applied for this fund are from tier 2 and tier 3 cities of India. So I feel like even a lot of my friends who have told about this fund feel that because I mean they always have a parent's home to go back to and stuff like that. They haven't applied for it, but I think it's important to acknowledge as artists that if we've lost our livelihood, you still should apply for something like this, because it's meant for people who've lost like a livelihood and are drastically changing their lives, right? So even if you're leaving a particular city because suddenly you've lost the livelihood or your savings to be able to function in that particular city, it's a drastic change in your life. And I think artists just need to get used to that. So it's not about whether you're supporting a larger family also, but it's acknowledging that some things have changed and you can still apply for a fund and apply and get the money for it because your life has changed drastically.
Yeah, actually Raghav brings up a really good point, Raf, and this is something that we thought long and hard about. It's never really easy to ask for help, right? And it's especially difficult to ask for financial help. So that's something that we've tried to keep at the core, just trying to make sure that the artists understand that their confidentiality is maintained. So the committee that looks at all of the applications, that vets the applications, has no idea of who these artists are. So there's an entire process where anything that links the application to a person's identity is completely scrubbed. And it goes through a few rounds of this. So even though we ask for some sort of proof in terms of whether it's newspaper articles or whether it's Facebook photos or videos of performances to show that the applicant is genuine and is a genuine artist who has been performing consistently, um, there are mechanisms in place that don't allow the final committee to see who these artists are. And that is one, to protect confidentiality, but also to try and ensure that there is no bias as far as possible, because that's something that we can't escape as humans, right? We all have inbuilt biases, and that's a very important part of this entire grant making process. So that's something that I just wanted to highlight. And big shout out to the team behind SAEF, SAAEF, who put in a lot of time and effort to make sure that this is as solid a process as possible.
Right. No, that's really cool. The artists who are applying, nobody will know that they're applying to this. Nobody will know that they're getting it. There's no bias. There is no even if your friend is in the StayIN Alive team and you apply for it, your friend in the team won't know that you applied for it. So that's really cool, and that's a very positive thing. That's important to note. So what are some of the challenges that you guys have personally faced during this, while working on this fund, because it's a new team, it's a new brand, it's a new everything, right? You probably faced a lot of challenges. So can you tell us at least one or two of these challenges?
Raghav, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll take that. Yeah. So I think the biggest challenge, because it's confidential, it's not like we can make a video of the artist saying that, hey, I've benefited so much from the StayIN Alive fund.
Right.
Right. So I think it's primarily awareness. Right. A lot of artists who need this don't know about it.
True.
I think that's the most important, because it sort of feels too good to be true also at the same time, right? Like somebody is giving you money to sort of survive and pay your bills for the next month's rent and stuff like that. So the idea is that we want to sort of build out our marketing strategies more, because it's hard to sort of reach out to as many artists that need it, and also make you feel like this is a genuine effort. It's not something that is going to con you, or something is going to happen by asking for your data or whatever, right? Filling out a form, people generally feel weird about sending out that information. So unless they feel like this is a real organization doing good work, that's right now a big challenge. I think the second thing is also within the team, like, because this is something that we do apart from our day jobs, right? So I think for me also personally, it's been a while now. So it's about taking out that time every day, or once a week or twice a week, to give it that time, because it needs that effort to be able to constantly run something like this. I think that's something we're trying to build, a team where sort of one person takes full charge of it, kind of a thing, so that it's something that keeps going, because it's a regular thing, right? There are applications coming in every day. There are cycles which invite people to sort of apply for it. All of that requires a certain amount of sort of bandwidth from all the partners. Even though we have so many, it gets sort of hard to keep sort of at it. I think the third bit that I would want to highlight is, I think it's also charity fatigue right now. Right, there are so many causes. People have been in lockdown. There are so many causes that people are wanting to support. So it's like, how do you sort of build that corpus of funds which is constantly sort of doling out cash to artists? That's something that we're sort of, thankfully, because we have so many partners, it's not been that hard, but it's also like we constantly need that to happen, right?
Absolutely. I think Raghav has beautifully put that. And I just want to bring in the artist perspective. Since as Raghav mentioned, many of the artists who apply are from tier 2, tier 3 cities. There are a whole host of problems, but one very clear thing that's emerged is that, when you look at bank statements, a lot of artists are now displaced, right? They're no longer in the cities that they migrated to for business, where all of their bank accounts are, and therefore bank statements, and so on and so forth. So just this inability to access things that you and I perhaps take for granted in terms of operations, daily operations, is very hard. So then how do you create financial or conduct your financial transactions with a bank branch that is inaccessible to you? So that's actually one thing that's come up that we actually didn't anticipate initially, and we're working um, to try and work with that very, very difficult situation. So that's just a glimpse of what the artist has to go through from the other side of the fence.
Man, that is interesting. That's very interesting. Um, I appreciate you guys sharing these numerous challenges that you guys are facing. But at the same time, this is such a great fund and a great initiative that these challenges and this progress will last a lifetime. The answers, the solutions to the challenges will last a lifetime. So I'm proud of you guys for doing this. So we always work with independent artists as well. For the most part, like as like a lot of the Desi, the South Asian hip hop artists, rappers out there, only a small percentage are like with major labels, but most of the artists, like the grand majority, are like independent. Either they have their own labels or they just don't have any labels at all, and so they're very independent. So as an independent artist, what do you guys think about what an independent artist should do to during these COVID times? Like what can they do to like continue on their on their mission, on their music? Obviously one of the first things they should do is apply for this fund, but then are they using these funds for paying their bills, or are they using it for their music, or what do you think that they should do during these times? Maybe Raghav.
Okay. So I feel like I think for musicians, right, as artists, like we're always living a very different life from everybody else, right? Because everybody else gets out of their houses every day, goes to work, meets a bunch of people and stuff like that. With artists, it's like you sort of feel alone because it's like this very, very isolating journey, right? You feel like there is no sort of community there. I think this is their opportunity, at least for a lot of my friends. They actually feel better right now because the entire world is living their life right now, right? They're not going out anywhere. So I think it's also like a little calming to know that the world is also sort of calmed down a little bit in this pandemic. I think a couple of things is like learning a new skill. I think a lot of artists have sort of gone into that space, which is beautiful because ultimately whoever learns something more and then has that new talent to showcase to the world, or a new craft or a new skill that you can also do, to sort of gig with it when you're live, when things open up. I think that's something which is really important. It's also, I feel like, social media activity, whether be it releasing your own music, interacting with new artists, because a lot of people are online now looking to figure out new things that they can do. So that dependency of live, I mean, while it will come back, like live gigs will come back eventually, these are like new sources of revenue streams that you can start thinking about, at least, right? So be it streaming revenue, be it revenue through brands, building up your Instagram or your Facebook to sort of get more people in, so that at some point when you drop more music or when you play that next gig, there'll be more people attending it. So I think these are different things that a lot of my musician friends are trying out, building a real fan base, educating yourself about music rights and just like performing arts and stuff like that. I think that will go a long way. Next year when everything is back to normal, you'll just be a way more refined version of yourself and more aware. I think that's what people should just put their heads down and work right now. Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome. This actually brings me to a segment of the show that we do every week. And this segment is called Independence is Priceless. So Independence is Priceless. This segment is brought to you by Tsunomi.io. It's a music distribution brand focused on South Asian artists. So I wanted to ask both a few questions about independent artists. Raghav kicked us off already with some great points some great pieces of advice. Deepti, I just wanted to know, like, for independent artists of any kind, like not just like musicians or like rappers or something, not just hip hop or just musicians, but any kind of artists. What do you think are some of the things that, like, some, if a 15-year-old girl is watching us right now and she's interested in some sort of art, what do you think she should do today to kind of get started?
So I think a few things. One is you got to know who your audience is. I think that's something that every musician, every artist really needs to know. And that doesn't come easy. It's not something that you magically divine, right? So you need to read. You need to read articles. You need to read, for a 15-year-old, perhaps not industry reports, but maybe someone a bit older. It's always there's a ton of information out there. So learning about the industry is important. I find that sometimes an artist is very close to their art, but then blind to what's happening around them. So I don't think that's the right way to go. It's important to immerse yourself, but also have an eye on what's going on. So if there are concerts, for example, digital concerts, live concerts, find managers, speak to them. People are usually willing to talk, usually willing to say, this is what I'm noticing these days. Just educate yourself. I think that's very important. The other thing that I would say is find that community who's going to support you. There are so many, like Raghav himself has started the support community for other independent artists. And I think just being able to talk to people, even if it's on a personal level, maybe not professional. There is always space for professional, but you've got to have that. You have to have those connections, because that's, as I've mentioned to you as well, Raf, I think community is really what's going to get you through the hard times. So I think without going into perhaps technical detail, I think these are the two big things that any independent artist needs to look at.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's very valuable and very true. Shout out to all the viewers on YouTube. We got a few hundred people watching us. Shout out to you guys. If you have questions, please drop them here. Raghav, I have a question for you. Since you work at Big Bang Music, you've worked with numerous types of artists over the years, even before Big Bang. What is what are a few characteristics that you see differentiates the amateur artist to the professional artist, the guy who's making it? Are there certain characteristics that make that person different?
Yeah, I think the artist, regardless of the kind of team he has around him or her, it will always be the anchor of the ship. Right, so the artist needs to work the hardest, and that's what people sort of get complacent after a time, that I've got this big team and they're going to do it, but ultimately they are the center of it, right? Everything else just enables everything that they need to do. They might get a great graphic guy or a great video guy or a great engineer, but it ultimately stems from the song, right? So I think that's something that's really important, because if the artist sort of stops putting in that effort and that work, it all goes downhill from there. Right? So they have to always be in control and be involved in every single aspect. I think artists who are obsessive about what they're going to look like and what their video is going to look like, and if I'm doing a lyric video, this is what it's going to look like, those are the artists that really end up succeeding, because they are sort of involved in everything and they're hustling every day, right? I think that's really important. And I think the second thing is, I think, just work ethic. So as long as you're working hard and not in a hurry, some artists sort of tend to burn out because they're in such a hurry to blow up that they'll do anything that comes their way or anything. So I think it's just that belief that you're in this for the long haul and you're going to keep doing it because this is who you are. I think those are the two things that really make a big difference towards separating people who do it for 2-3 years and then fade away, or guys who really build a massive career and a whole ecosystem around them.
Beautiful. I love that. That's great advice, man. Both of you guys dropped a lot of really good points. I love that. So, we're nearing the end of this episode, but I wanted to see if you guys wanted to add, is there anything else you wanted to add about, the StayIN Alive Fund, or just something, from yourself, like any piece of advice or anything you wanted to say? Let's start with Dipti. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
So we're at a point with the fund where we're hoping to raise awareness, as Raghav said. We're also hoping for more contributions from the community. Any small amount will be very, very welcome through the GiveIndia page. And it only enables us to reach more artists in the community. So if anyone can find a way to contribute, we'd be very, very grateful.
And how are they going to, what's the steps to do it? Is it on your website or Instagram, or what's the process?
So they can find information on the Staying Alive Artist Emergency Fund, SAAEF website. They could also go to the GiveIndia website, and it'll pop right up over there. It's one of the campaigns that GiveIndia is running. So that's how the incoming funds are routed.
And they can also reach out to us on Instagram. We have an Instagram handle. You can just drop us a DM. You can personally reach out to either of us also, and we'd love to get connected. I think it's about anybody who feels for artists and feels like they can add some value to this, whether be it in the form of time, be it in the form of support, be in the form of like educating other artists. I think we're completely open to it because it's a completely voluntary kind of like a situation where every sort of input or every sort of man hour that goes into this is always welcome, right? And it is built like, I mean, one of the things that we'd imagined it to be was like of the artist for the artists, right? So as long as we have more and more artists who feel for this, if you want to do a fundraiser to help other artists, if you've been doing this for a while and you're comfortable currently, do that, help us out with that. But it is generally a community that we want to build more long term so that it outlasts all of us, right? Even if I'm not involved personally or Deepti is not involved, the fund still remains because it becomes a process where it's beyond just any of us, right? Like, that's the ultimate goal.
That's awesome. Yeah, we just put on the StayIN Alive Instagram handle on this page. StayIN Alive org on Instagram. Guys, go check it out. I'm sure you guys have the link in bio, right? Like for the fund. So yeah, just go into their Instagram. Find the link in bio.
There is an advisory every time I see "Staying Alive," the Bee Gees song runs in my head for the next 2 hours. It's impossible. So I'm sorry about that, Yuva, but that's gonna happen.
That's right. That's awesome. Cool. So yeah, thank you guys for sharing. So every week, when we do this podcast, we do it with multiple artists, and we have a segment. We have a lot of different segments, but today we didn't play some of those segments. But I really wanted to do one more of these segments today, and it's called Playlist Placement. So in this segment, Playlist Placement, I ask you guys, what are you guys listening to right now? What's on your playlist? I'm just always curious to know what you guys are listening to. It can be anything, So let's hear it, Raghav. I'm sure it's some dope metal stuff, maybe mixed in with some hip hop, maybe.
Metal always stays. In fact, I was revisiting a lot of Carnival this week. I've been running a lot, so Carnival always helps. Prog rock just always helps. No, but I think I've been listening to a lot of Young the Giant lately. Glass Animals came out with a new album, which is pretty amazing. I love that. These are two sort of albums that I'm currently listening to. I keep going back to a lot of Rage Against the Machine because like it always helps when it comes to running. Yeah, I mean that's about it for now.
Cool.
I can like take you through my Spotify if you want.
Yeah, that's always exciting for me just to hear. Like I listen to music all day, every day, just all sorts of things. So this is fun for me. How about yourself, Dipti?
Oh, my music taste is a little bit very, very different. I've actually gone back to classical music. So
Nice.
listening to a lot of Hindustani classical music. I'm part of a group that is learning some of it. So just trying to get back to the roots, if you will. So listening to Drupad, which is a form of Hindustani classical music, that's mostly it. But otherwise, I'm pretty old school. I listen to a lot of retro and 80s music. So
Nice.
yeah, that's usually what I do.
That's cool. Yeah, it's very unique. It's different. Like everybody's got different choices. That's the best part about this music industry.
I also make a bunch of playlists on Spotify, so if you want to go check them out.
Yeah.
I constantly keep putting, and it's full of just independent Indian music, right? So Indian indie, basically.
So how do we find you? Like, what do I have to search your name?
Just my name, Raghav Meattle, on Spotify. Listen to my music if you haven't already. You should check it out also.
Okay.
Promo.
Sounds good. We will definitely do
that.
Yeah.
We'll do that. I'll definitely find out your Spotify playlist. And while we're plugging Spotify playlist, guys, please also go check out Global Desi Hip Hop playlist on Spotify. We update that every week. All right, guys, man. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really enjoyed getting to know you guys, as well as getting to know about this fund. It's really interesting to me, and what you guys are doing is really, really different, unique, and awesome. Because in many other countries, you guys mentioned this earlier, that in many other countries there are funds. There are government funds, or even private funds like this for certain types of artists. And people, especially in Europe, I think, that I've been looking at, people have been able to get those funds in France and other parts of Europe, but not so much in South Asia, not so much in India, So, I'm really proud of you guys for doing something unique like this. This is very different, it'll be something that'll be remembered 10 years from now. I'm pretty sure that later on, like even 20 years later, there will be things like this in the history books, that like, hey, there was a small group of artists and, community of people and brands who were just like, fuck it, I'm going to make a fund for to last a lifetime, and
man,
so I'm
Rav, that goes the same for you also, because I've been following Desi Hip Hop for like a couple of years now, and it's absolutely insane of how Hardik and you have just like been like, hey, nobody wants to support us here. This is I remember this from my first conversation with Hardik. It's absolutely mind-blowing of the kind of stuff that you guys are doing, and in such a sustained, organized manner, which is like sort of pushing artists every day to sort of do their thing, making them believe in their art form. And hopefully, I mean, you guys are definitely going down in history as guys who just like took it over. So congratulations and more power to you, man.
Man, thank you, bro. That means a lot.
Thank you also for taking information like this to the artist community. I think information is power, right? Just to say independence is. So thank you for being such an important community platform. I know that all of your viewers are going to be enriched from listening to all the content that you put out. So thanks so much.
Definitely. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Next week we'll be back, and thank you guys again. I will definitely talk to you guys soon on WhatsApp or email or wherever else. All right.
Amazing.
Thank you guys. Have a good one.
Take care.
Peace.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hey, raffled up, yo. Desi Hip Hop General. Check. Unfiltered. Con artist. New York City. Yo, we ain't cloud chasing. We about facing the devil. You about hating. We about raising up people levels. Ain't no doubt, Masons. I'm building upward. You seeking trouble. I'm not waiting, caught in the matrix, but keep my hustle. The devil whispered, but I come mentally with the muscle. When the rebels spitting